Boss in the Sauce Show.
Boss in the Sauce Show.
Boss in the Sauce Show.
Boss in the Sauce Show. Here we go.
Welcome back to the Boss in the Sauce Show. Let's take a dive into one of the bigger games of week one. We got Clemson versus Georgia. This is going to go down Saturday, August 31st, 9 a.m. on the West. UGA is a whopping 13.5 favorite in this one. We're going to be looking at Kirby Smart, who's in his 9th year. He's getting 7 back on offense, 7 back on defense. Everything is nice and balanced for him in those respects. He gets his quarterback, Carson Beck's back on the offensive side. And he also brings in a new co-DC, Robinson, who was the cornerback coach at Alabama, to pick in on the D. And now he's going up against an OG right here, and that's Dabo Swinney. 17 years coaching here at Clemson. He brings back 9 on offense and 5 on defense. I don't know why people are not talking about Dabo Swinney bringing back 9 on offense. And he also has his quarterback, Kubiak, who's going to be coming along as well. His defense got a lot of work to do on the defense. He's lost a lot of people at defensive line. He's lost a lot of people on the at cornerback. He lost a lot of people also in the wide receiver category, but they should be fine as they bring in some transfers and some other stuff. But he does get back 4 starters on the offensive line. So you're getting back your quarterback, 4 starters on the offensive line with a coach like Dabo Swinney. What do you think about this, Big Ragu?
Well, this is my favorite game of the weekend for multiple reasons. Number one, let's talk about. I'm not going to break down Bama real quick. I mean, we're going to talk. I want to talk about Bama just a little bit to hint them in, even though they're not part of the game. But Dabo is going to be on a mission this year, because when Saban left, they didn't even give him a cup of coffee to interview him. So he's got a little bit of chip on the shoulder. This is a respect thing. Now, he's a diehard Clemson guy regardless, but just the thought of him not being mentioned in the conversation kind of drew an ear by me. But anyways, to talk about Clemson and their big offensive, their big problem has been on offense the past 2-3 years, but they've managed to put things together late in the season. Like they've won, for I think the past 5 seasons, they won their last game, Positivity, which is either a bowl game or playing Carolina, going into a bowl game for that matter. And offensively, they should be better this year than they have been. Last year, there was 5 occasions where they scored less than 20 points. So a lot of it's been on the defensive side for them. And like you said, they got 2 returning starters on defense. And when Venables left, they brought in Godwin, the coordinator. Well, he actually did a pretty damn good job, I think, for what he did, because a lot of those games they lost, they were still in the game to win. It's just offensively they couldn't put it across with Klubnik. But I think this year, we'll see them definitely step forward in a big way here. Now, with Georgia, it's so hard to run it back in football, NFL and college for that matter. Even though we see these dynasty teams come and go in college football, Georgia's probably going to be the new king of the hill now, even though Michigan is the national champs, but consistency-wise, Georgia's kind of got to that pinnacle, and there's others that are going to climb that mountain. But right now, I got to put Georgia right up there at the top of the class. So Clemson's like, what about us over here? What about us? Well, you've got a lot to prove, Clemson. You've got a lot to prove, and the clock is ticking. I'm not saying that Dabo is in trouble by no means in Clemson, but if they have a non-productive season, there's going to be some rumblings there, I believe. But Georgia brings back Carson Beck. He's a senior quarterback. He's a first-year starter last year, and he threw just under for 4,000 yards. He's got plenty of weapons. They get a couple of transfers. They get Travis Etienne from Florida. They get Kobe Young from University of Miami, a couple of Florida kids. these guys are going to, be big time playmakers for Georgia. And they watch this kid Roderick Robinson. He only played in 3 games last year, but he averaged like 8.2 yards per carry on 25 carries. So he's going to be one of these emerging star type kids. And if there's any weakness in Georgia, not a whole lot, but they did lose 3 of their 4 starting secondary last year. But they say they've got a kid, Malik Starks is one of the best in the country. So, and then they bring on safety Javon Billiard and Tyree Smith. So they bringing these kids in. Last year we talked about this. Georgia and Bama were like the least. They didn't touch the NIL. They were so deep, and that's still going to carry over. Not to say they're not going to use NIL and go after kids because everybody's doing it, but Georgia's, they've recruited well for the past 3, 4, 5 years, and that's still going to pay dividends for the next 2 or 3 years going forward. So this type of game here, I look for a smash mouth football game early on. And Georgia was really bad about covering numbers last year. I mean, they threw some pretty good sized numbers at them, and we kind of looked at some first half opportunities at Georgia, but they didn't just get to the window. If you backed Georgia last year, you lost your ass. So tread lightly with Georgia. It's a lot of points for Clemson. I think the defense is up to it. We'll see what the offense brings. So right now, I lean Clemson early.
What you like in this game right here, WineTime?
Yeah, I mean, I broke it down this Clemson team really well this offseason. It's almost crazy to see Dabu not using the transfer portal like every other coach out here. He's really just trying to grow rather than get transfers come in. He's returning his quarterback, Klubnik. You guys touched on him earlier. He couldn't really put it all together. I mean, Dabu does believe in this guy. I don't know if I really do, but we'll see if he can. If he can get protection, he can. But they return almost their entire team, guys. Their senior linebacker, Barrett Carter, forego the NFL draft, probably could have been a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Dabu said this offseason that's probably one of the best athletes that he's ever coached to date. Expect Barrett Carter to have a really big year here at linebacker. Sideline to sideline. They also got the linebacker room is just loaded with NFL guys. They've got a guy named Peter Woods, who's a sophomore, also got to the quarterback a lot last year. They are returning their senior tight end, Jake Bringenstill, who's probably one of the better pass-catching tight ends in the nation. He had 10 touchdowns last year. I expect him to do really well this year with Klubnik. That's going to be Klubnik's guy. Watch out for him in player props. He's going to be a touchdown machine, especially in the red zone. I believe he's 6'5" or 6'6". He's a senior. He's going to be taken in this year's NFL draft. They also have a really good running back in Phil Mafia. He could really do it all. He's a pass-catching running back. He can do it out of the backfield. When he's in space, when he has the ball in his hand, he can make plays. It's really going to come down to this offensive line, I think. If they can protect Klubnik, they can give space for Phil to run. I think they can do really well this season. They couldn't put a lot of points together last year. Their defense was really well. Like I said, they have a lot of NFL prospects on the defensive end. It's really going to be up to Klubnik if he can put it all together. Then we're going to move over to Georgia. You guys mentioned Carson Beck returning almost 4,000 passing yards last season. Stellar year. They didn't make the college football playoff. Just missed it. And pretty much return a lot of their guys. They have a lot of weapons. They got Etienne running back out of Florida, Travis Etienne's brother. Really elite. Not only can he run the ball, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield. I expect him to have a really big season this year. I think Carson Beck's going to use him in that tight end a lot this year. Look out for those 2 guys. And Kirby Smart, he's a great coach. You guys mentioned he's kind of like the new Nick Saban of college football now. Georgia kind of, they didn't win the national championship last year. Michigan did, but Georgia's still probably the most known football program in the nation right now. I haven't looked at the odds to win it all, but I'm going to guess that they're going to definitely be at the top as they usually are. Don't have a bet in this game. I see the spread in this one is 13.5. I think Clemson could cover the spread, honestly. 2 scores. So. I'm going to take Clemson plus 13, plus 13.5, whatever it's at. Don't have a bet in this game yet. I'm going to look at it probably a little bit closer to the season, but I like this Clemson team. We're really going to see if Dabo can keep growing and not use the portal. So it's really going to be up to that. I don't really think this is a do or die year for him, but I think he's going to want to have a good year this year for sure, especially with Klubnik returning in year 2 as a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm leaning a lot on the side of Clemson. Things I like about Clemson is, like I said before, preparation. A coach like Sweeney gets all summer long to get you tuned up for this big game where he could slip a fast one on them. Klubnik, he kind of came together towards the end of the season. He did have a slow start, but he came together towards the end of the season and could have been the new system from the offensive coordinator. This is something we're going to have to take a look at. Second-year offensive coordinators, when they really get players who really understand their system and can go out there and get the job done. Having an offensive line means a lot for Clemson to protect Klubnik, and Dabo always figures it out on the ground. Even when he had quarterback troubles, he was able to figure it out on the ground. And one that stuck out was Nickelback Arden Makuba stays and turns down the NFL to stay with this group on defense. So maybe despite the losses that they have on the D line and in the DB spot, maybe they do come up with something good on defense, just good enough to hold them off for the 13.5 points. But could be the first upset of week 1 right there if you look at it long term. But I mean, in respect to Georgia constantly puts together a good product on the field, but they do have a lot of turmoil that's going on here and there inside of Georgia if you really dig into it with a deep microscope. So this could be the downfall of Kirby Smart. We could be starting to see that. He's probably peaked, and we could be going downhill with them. I'm not too happy about Carson Beck. I mean, the running game is so strong. He doesn't have to do a whole lot with his arm or his legs to make things happen. He's just a great quarterback on a even greater team, a greater offense, shall I say. But what does disturb me about Georgia, and it's a key spot, especially top teams, is the DB position. They're only receiving one returner on in the cornerback position over here. So, late in the games, if Dabo can coach the game tight enough to get a late in the game exploit his DBs, then he got a chance to win the game outright. So if I'm probably not going to bet on the game, because if you look at it overall, can Clemson beat Georgia? Absolutely. Can Georgia blow out Clemson? Absolutely. So it's kind of hard to put your money on here, but there's going to be a lot of looks in week 1 that are going to be better just looked at than bet. But that's my take. You guys got anything else on this game?
I got one. Yeah, I want to touch on the DBs. Like you said, that's a great point. Like, and I brought it up too. I said they only have one returner coming back in that secondary, but the 3 guys that they have, they're young, and that's Kirby's concern. He said, but they're 5-star recruits. So I mean, just maybe, and it's early in the season too. So like you said, it could be an opportunity if it's a close game. And then Klubnik sees an opportunity to maybe expose or try to go after one of those type guys. That remains to be seen. But yeah, that's a very valid point, and that's really the only weakness I find on this team right now is in the secondary.
There it is, y'all. Y'all heard it right here first on the Boss and the Sauce Show. Me, my man Big Ragu, and WineTime in the house, and we're gonna get out of here.